Hey everyone, so I'm going through a couple books and a similar, actually the exact same topic popped up, and that was on willpower. And the books that mentioned this were Emotional Intelligence and Never Eat Alone. And I believe one other book mentioned it as well. And it was most recently mentioned, however, on a book I'm going through right now, and that one is called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And these books are on psychology. Emotional intelligence is on psychology. One Thing is on business and success in general. Um, Never Eat Alone is about success, networking, and social skills. Anyhow, I'll do book review videos on all those books on my book review channel, but um, they all mention something called uh, willpower, and they back it up, especially the latest one, The One Thing. They all cite the same studies. The One Thing, however, cites even more studies on similar stuff, on how they prove how willpower is something that's like a battery. Every day you wake up with it fully charged usually, and it drains over the day. What this means is that if it drains completely, you're more vulnerable to be susceptible to a lot of things. And they tested this through science, and they used a lot of experiments. And that, immediately uh, was groundbreaking because it meant that there was so many implications. And one of the studies done really shows this. Basically, they had a person memorize a number, and based on how long the number was, um, the people who had longer numbers to memorize, maybe 6 or 7 digits long, they had a much harder time resisting the temptation of eating um, between the choice of a healthy piece of food or a non-healthy piece of food that was given to them. I believe it was cake, chocolate cake. And it was shown that the people who had memorized more uh, agreed to eat the chocolate cake a lot more. And obviously, this has tremendous implications. And knowing this, you can restructure your life and put yourself at an advantage beyond other people. Now, what do I mean by this? First off, the implications means that if you have a stressful, willpower um, draining job, usually something that involves you exerting personal restraint of some sort, um, then that can leave you vulnerable at the end of the day to a lot of potential things if you are going home. Let's say uh, junk food. You're much more vulnerable to buy fast food, especially if you're marketed a lot. Unfortunately, or I guess you could say fortunately, for businesses, they can use this too by understanding it and acknowledging then to market and spend more time advertising as people drive home from work rather than in the morning and similar stuff like that. It's not just work; it's a variety of things, and it's not just food that you're vulnerable to. A lot of maybe advertising, salespeople, convincing your parents to do something, etc., etc. It, it implies to almost anything, and that is a scary thing, in fact. And willpower, I think, there's a lot of ways it can be drained as well. Another is just having a lifestyle that you do not enjoy. It could be work where you really have to exert a lot of willpower just to get through the day because it's literally like you're constantly waiting for the next hour to end or for the day to be over and for technically your life to be over because all your time spent at this workplace and you're not interested in it. Or it could be something like books. There's a lot of books I find boring, a lot of textbooks, and it takes a lot of willpower to keep going and strive and push through when you're assigned 50 pages of reading. So students are vulnerable to this as well. After a great deal of time studying for finals week, they're probably more vulnerable to eat fast food and all this stuff. Businesses could take that to their advantage. They can advertise, commercialize on that. And there's so many more implications, and oftentimes a lot of it's also based on other things I've learned. But it's not all like the point of this was not to bring out things that can be used in a negative or exploitative manner with this. It can also be a very positive thing. You can use it positively to help your own life or help others. For instance, you can structure your life so that you don't have a willpower that gets drained, or you're not vulnerable to dangers when you are. Perhaps you can drive home a different route now that you realize the vulnerability you have, or you can arrange certain appointments and interviews with salespeople or business executives in the morning rather than the evening. Specific ones that are trying to convince you to buy something, or you're going to argue with. Or if you're not someone in business and you're just a student or a random person, an average Joe Schmo, or a young child, you can instead use this willpower. And I guess what you can do is you can stop trying to find things that you have to drain it, and instead find things that don't drain it. And I think that is magical in itself, because I think there's so many people I believe out there who, from observations, are in this sort of state of waiting for the day to end. And I've seen that it's when you're doing something you're uninterested in, or you're reading a book you're not interested in, or a textbook and stuff like that, it's very tough. And there is a surprising amount of stuff you can do that can train you over time to enjoy what you do. But on top of that, sometimes it will not work to a certain extent. If someone does not want to be a lawyer, for instance, and they hate it, it's really almost impossible. It's like going, like rushing upstream against a river that's flowing downstream, to sort of convince them or train them, or even for themselves to force themselves or delude themselves to enjoy something that they don't want to become a lawyer. And it involves a lot of willpower, therefore, to stick with the studying of the textbooks in law and so forth. Rather than that, what you want to do is generally end the day with as much willpower as you can. Therefore, you will not feel as exhausted with your willpower battery drained and so forth. And one way of doing that, and it's very magical, is finding things that you are deeply interested in, that can produce your fruitful gains and fruitful results that you want. Maybe it's money, maybe it's something else. And what you'll find with that is it's magical, because it's not draining any willpower, because you literally enjoy so much that you do it in your free time, and it's just amazing. And some of that has to be partially trained, because not everyone has the fortune of genetically enjoying something, or stumbling upon enjoying something that they absolutely love, that fills all the practical sides of it too, money, living, and so forth. But getting a step closer to that can be very, very useful, in that it's something you do in your free time. You strive to do. You jump to do it whenever you can. Therefore, it's so interesting and so entertaining and fun and interesting in a way that your willpower battery stays full, and it's not working upstream. You can do this almost infinitely. And when you compare that to someone who's competing against you, trying to achieve a certain level of knowledge or skill at a certain task, craft, or industry or topic, you are going to win out, because that man is not interested enough to spend his free time off from work learning even more about that topic when you would almost pay to do so. So, food for thought. As always, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. If you found this video helpful, leave it a like. If you are not subscribed and you want to learn more and you're a helpful, inspiring, ambitious person, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. It'll let you know when my next video comes out. And go ahead onto my channel and check out some other interesting videos. I'll see you guys later.